Hello everyone, and thank you for joining me once more on the third entry into the Praxis series around the Book of the Black Dragon. This is going to be the third and final entry for the first book. I just completed reading it this morning and wanted to go through and give you a summary of where we're at with this work. We're going to look at the 5 sorcerous syllables today, being Sa, Pa, Hu, La, and Ku. And each is presented as being a seed or a focal point for meditation with this work. Now, each of the 5 syllables, and I'm going to go ahead and show the first one here just while I give an introduction to how we're going to go through this. These 5 syllables are, there's I guess the beginning stage of the syllable, and then there is the introduction of the I reflective. And when you insert your I reflective, or you insert yourself into these, it is a change that takes place within your sorcerous self. This merging of the two. So the first syllable, Sa, is the changing and all-consuming principle of sorcery. It marks the moment when the first expression of love and disaffection came to be. This is essentially an origin. When we insert the I reflective, it allows traversal of aspects revealing our sorcerous mind, and we are persuaded to relinquish the material state that we know for a spiritual and darkening journey, basically giving up the comfort of the here and now to explore the uncomfortable, in a sense. The second syllable, Pa, turns oppositional state of being into an act of devotion. It's sown to facilitate deception. Remember I believe it was the second video, we talked about working with both hands, and the light and the dark, honesty, deception, all of these things combined. What we see as differences are actually various points within the same idea. And it focuses on what we will consume in order to contribute towards strengthening our resolve for this work. We offer ourselves very similar to how we are offered to the Fang point of the dragon that we talked about also in the previous video. Now we insert the I reflective, it's again the sorcerer's self, and it enables the sorcerer to corroborate their position to that of the peacock angel. And I thought it was interesting that the book mentions the peacock angel, because a lot of times, pretty much all the time, that's a reference to Lucifer or the Horned One. But in this work, the emissary is known as Melek Tos, or King to the World of the Seen, Lord of this world, essentially. And again, by standing in opposition to the light or things that are regarded as holy, again, our resolve is strengthened on to the next step, where we get to Hu. Again, following the first 2, this is the last breath we take, in which this demon emissary can rush in to fill the empty space. So it's, again, removing part of yourself, or I guess similar to the witch breath of traditional witchcraft, where you expend all the air in your lungs, and it eventually gets to this almost like a hallucination, lightheaded type state where the emissary can enter. It also references, or seems to reference, in my opinion, the eventual final breath that each of us will take at some point, where we will transition into the metaphysical beyond. Again, just like with the other ones, when we assert the I reflective into who, it allows us to realize whom we are addressing, approaching, and to recount what we are doing. So it's a sense of humbling. The fourth syllable, la. This is the love experienced in the presence of the demon emissary, enticing the external spirit to reside in our sorcerous flesh. La is the end and focused on our mind and intellect. The I reflective cohabits love, devotion, infusing law with the 12 Ophidian axioms, which we'll look at shortly. The 12 axioms, by the way, they should be recited as announcements, declarations concerning consciousness of the black dragon. So these syllables that we're looking at now, with one left to go, they are the 5, I guess, aids in focusing for ritual and other uses, and the 12 axioms are what would be spoken aloud in some of this work. And the last syllable is ku, also referred to simply as the letter, inferring the passing on of a message, sign, sigil, or a shrine, perhaps. It's a sign of treachery, conveying absorption of all other beings in the name of the black dragon. Remember, the previous syllable that we looked at was concerning opposition to the light and things considered holy, and this is an extension or a continuation of that thought and that practice. The I, when inserted into the ku symbol, is representing the dragon's column, a dagger, a nail, and deviating sorcery from more traditional paths. Now, the other part of this, and I don't want to go into a lot of detail with them, it's got the text on the bottom, but I can at least show you the cards associated with the various axioms, and then I'm going to go through and give you a rundown of some of the notes that I had taken to kind of, I guess, serve as a reference to these various axioms for future use. I don't think that candle likes me. So the 12 axioms, the first one, and I'm just going to kind of run through these here, don't want to belabor it too much, but the first axiom is the dirt track road aims to reduce our sense of self to see beyond ourselves. The second discusses the serpent rib, and it symbolizes the rib plucked from the black dragon. The third, love takes on a trajectory across the unknown. Fourth, we bind to the daemon, igniting insights and fires of imagination, those who wander amongst the coils of ecstasy. Fifth, our dream self is the prime avatar for venturing into the ether. We remove all shackles and morality of the day in dreams. Sixth, designating the nature of your knowing. The first 5 axioms list what the sorcerer will do for the daemon, and the 6th explores the reciprocity of what you will receive. 7th, the establishment of a proto-ritual space, incorporating topos, chora, and kanon, which is discrete, occupied, and empty spaces. 8th, turning away from the light and things revered to embrace those viewed with disdain. 9th, turning away from that which is known, accompanied by love as a familiar companion and succubus. This succubus is the negation of finite and creator of infinite thought. She feeds on the mundane and feelings of fear, worry, and mortality, and they are sustenance for her. Often heard before seen, she takes the form of a bat, a fox, or an owl. The ninth axiom was one of the first ones that really stood out to me, especially because it seems that there is the benefit of the ninth axiom, the succubus aspect, taking away our fear, worry, and dread of our own mortality. But by interacting with this emissary, it will leave a mark upon us as well. The 10th axiom, the skull of Cain or Cain, an aid to the study of flesh-bound mortality, to dwell in shadow. Does the adept hold to a system of belief and practice, or does the adept attempt to break free from constructs made by another? This is also in the, I think it was the first video, I briefly mentioned that there are 2 vessels used in this, and pages 366 through 373 discuss the ossuary of temporal flux. So that is something that is kind of the first mentioning of that. In the first book, you don't create the vessel, the ossuary of temporal flux, if it is in fact a physical vessel. We'll find out later on in the work. But the apotropic chamber vessel, that's the one that I created in the first video. One little side note, and I've got a video review of this on the channel already, but I wanted to bring it forward as well. The Devils Nocturne. This is a book that, again, I've already done a review on it, but especially after you read through, or if you plan to work with the Black Dragon current, this is a book I recommend getting. There's only one printing made of it so far. There were, I think, 333 copies, and it's a small book, so a lot of people passed it up, but there's a lot of information in here that only begins to make more and more sense as you work through the Black Dragon. The skull of Cain, or Cain, is actually something that is, I guess, in a way, again, I haven't read the second book yet, and the third one's not out, but it seems like a human skull, skull of man, the skull of Cain, representing mortality, and someone who has passed on. That is a catalyst for speaking with the daemon emissary. And this book expands on some of that. And again, I don't want to go into a book review on accident, especially for one I've already reviewed. But if you see that, pick it up, because it's going to be highly sought after in the future, I imagine, especially after the 3rd volume of the Black Dragon comes out. Axiom number 11, the very nature of the sorceress mind, the way you approach this work, will be defined by how you conduct yourself. How do we perceive that which is absent from the physical world? This axiom, there's a lot of information in the 10th, 11th, and 12th axiom. One thing I thought was interesting is that in the 11th axiom, Peter mentions a keystone. And if you've read or worked with the Baron Citadel, a keystone is a repeating theme. As a side note, anytime it mentions sorcerer's self, think of that as being non-being or other. Being and non-being. Being is the physical world, non-being is the sorcerer's self or other. And I did also want to briefly read a paragraph on page 379 of the Book of the Black Dragon. It says, sorcery relies on you being able to vacate the mind of the real by usurping its presence, by having interjected non-existence. This liberates the sorcerer's self from the vestiges of knowledge. It also encourages new and liberating discourses to be formed that address the unseen. There's a lot there in that sentence. there's so much within this work and within magic in general that is introspective, that takes place within the mind. So I just wanted to share that paragraph. I thought it really kind of awoken a few things within myself. And even if you're not working on this path, maybe there's some knowledge in there that'll help you out with your own practice. The big thing that I took out from that is that we are vessels capable of receiving transmissions from beyond. And that is very impressive. It's a very almost surreal thought. It's something that I think people who, if you're watching this video, it's not really surprising, but when you really think about it, it's quite something. The Dirt Track Road is about centering ourselves, our sorcerer selves, under the gaze of the Black Dragon. And lastly, the 12th axiom is maybe one of the more interesting ones, but it's so in-depth that I don't want to, again, go through and cover every single aspect of it. But it focuses on the usage of our five senses to entreat and commune with the demon emissary Tahut Lenan Deira Willahu. And that is the emissary who will essentially question you and ask you to personally explain why you were seeking the Black Dragon in the first place. And that's where the first book ends. I do have the second book, and I will begin working with that shortly. More so studying, I guess, because all the work is in the third volume. There are, again, those who are familiar with this work, there are also a series of, there's a codex between each release of the Black Dragon main entries. So there's 3 volumes to the Black Dragon. There's going to be 3 codex or codices that will be released to accompany those. I don't know if I'm going to read the first codex or if I'm just going to jump into the second Black Dragon book. Being how intense and involved the reading is of these books, I will probably go into volume 2 of the Black Dragon. Things are probably going to slow down a little bit more from that point. And then I may go back and review the codex or see if, maybe we got the 3rd edition coming out in the near future. But yeah, that is the first volume of the Black Dragon. Thanks for watching, and always please feel free to share and comment, and thanks for your time.